Good morning, everyone. This is the Vermont House Committee on Commerce and Economic Development. It is Friday, May 8th, 2026 at 11:35 in the morning. So we're here to understand the changes that were made by the Senate to H512, which is the ticket resale bill that we had passed a few weeks ago. And it's on our notice calendar, so it'll be up for action Tuesday. So I think we need to make a decision once we hear what changes are to decide to concur for the proposal of amendments or decide to go to a conference committee. So those are our three choices. So we have our legislative counsel with us, Cameron Wood. Cameron, thanks for joining us this morning. You can walk us through the changes that the Senate made.
Yes, sir. I'd be happy to. For the record, Cameron Wood, Office of Legislative Counsel.
Just so we don't have that posted on our webpage, but if people want to access the language, it's on the House calendar for today, under H512 and it's under notice. So,
Jonathan, I think you denied my sharing access, maybe inadvertently.
I didn't address it yet, so I was trying to.
That's okay. We're good. Okay. It told me that you denied me.
We're speaking of
Denied. Okay. So this document here is the version that has passed with the incorporated amendments. There were some changes that were proposed by the Senate Economic Development Committee, and then they made some amendment on the floor as well. So the first change is in the definition section. And I guess before I dive in, quick primer, Mr. Chair, you mentioned it, but as you all remember, this is regarding the resale of tickets and the requirements for certain disclosure regarding resale of tickets, the price caps, the prevention of utilizing deceptive URLs, and then the ban on selling speculative tickets. So the first change is adding in this definition of independent venue right there under A1. So independent venue means an event space that derives a majority of its revenue, excluding charitable donations, from ticket events, is not majority owned by a publicly traded company, and does not operate venues in more than 10 states. So giving that definition, my understanding here is this is intended to cover, your venues throughout the state. I'm not sure that there's a venue that doesn't meet this definition, but I would have to defer to Susan on that, and she could articulate whether there are. But you have independent venue. Next change is going to be on the definition of reseller here on 4. This was changed to mean a business entity. I believe as it came over from the House, I think you all had it as a person. This has been changed to be a business entity, and then they've added the second definition of a reseller does not include an individual reselling a ticket purchased for personal use. So this was the amendment similar to the amendment that was offered on the floor by Representative Donahue and others that you all had rejected on the House side. This was added in on the Senate. So the intention here was to, my understanding was to kind of follow the definition, similar definition utilized in Maine, where it's targeting business entities and then excluding individuals who are reselling for personal use. I'm going to come back to that regarding price caps, because there's something for you to be aware of as it relates to the price caps and how that would get at potentially individuals.
Is that business entity clear enough in terms of what that means, as opposed to an individual?
It is a business entity, which could include a business organization, but it could also include an individual. An individual can operate a business as an individual without having incorporated with the Secretary of State.
Sure.
So the AG's office would look at it if the individual is operating a business for the resale of tickets and they're not for personal use.
Wait, can you repeat that one more time?
Well, yeah, the last phrase.
So if the individual is reselling the tickets, and they're doing it as a business, and they're not reselling tickets that they bought for personal use. If they're engaging in a business enterprise for the purpose of purchasing and reselling tickets,
Right,
even as an individual,
yeah.
then they would be covered under that definition. Because you can operate a business as an individual.
Did they discuss trying to clarify that? I mean, did they talk about trying to clarify that a little bit?
The key thing, I think that, to get to.
I understand the individual.
I think that the key piece is the second part of this, the second sentence in the definition. The committee, in order to get to consensus, there was a lot of concern about ensuring that the individuals who are purchasing tickets for individual use are able to sell those and not to be price capped if they're just selling it to another individual kind of face to face, if you will, and not through a secondary ticket exchange.
How did we define reseller?
You defined it, I believe it was just a person engaged in the sale or resale of tickets. There was no exclusion for individuals as it came over from the House. And that's what I was mentioning. There was an amendment proposed on the floor to add an exception for individuals for personal use, reselling for personal use, and you all rejected that amendment on the floor. Okay. So business entity engaged in the sale or resale does not include individual reselling tickets for personal use. The next change is on the definition of ticket, where the committee added in the words within the state. So as it came out of the House, one of the questions that came up, and I don't remember us having a discussion in here about this, but a question came up in the Senate committee to say, what if I'm selling my Red Sox tickets in the state of Vermont to someone else? Would the law be applicable? And I said yes. And so they wanted to make it, a lot of the amendments you see here are to make sure it's explicit that we're talking about Vermont venues only. And so that was one of the definitions, that was one of the amendments that they wanted to see was ticket is only going to be for venues that are within the state of Vermont. Yep. Okay, so the next change is going to be on the ticket disclosure requirements. So this reader assistance heading, I slightly tweaked it. So it's ticket disclosure requirements now. And the change is adding in this subdivision 1, which requires ticket issuers to include on the face of the ticket in a clear and conspicuous manner the total price. So that was a change that was added. And so you also still have in here what you all had passed out of the House regarding clear and conspicuous notice informing customers if they're purchasing the ticket from a reseller, and that the resale price is limited in subsection C, and secondary ticket exchange cannot provide mislead customers about the availability of tickets on their platforms or other platforms. So all of the remainder of this section is as you all passed it. Mr. Chair, you look like you want to.
Maybe a question for Sue.
The next change is going to be in the price cap section. And so I'm going to pause here because I'm going to mention a few things. You still have the sub 1 and the sub 2. That's how it came out of the House, which is a ticket reseller shall not sell or offer for sale a ticket at a price greater than 110%. And the secondary ticket exchange shall not authorize for resale on the exchange a ticket for a price greater than 110%. And so I'm going to pause real quick, Mr. Chair, because I see that you have a question. You have a hand raised.
Dave?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. On that, posting the price, Cameron, on a conspicuous manner, that first one that you added, does that include any fees in the case of an online purchase? I mean, we're talking total disclosure of the actual venue charge and any fees that might be being charged?
Yes, sir, it would, because the definition of price, I just scrolled up to sub A, the definition of price includes taxes, fees, and charges.
Excellent,
So
thank you.
all of they would have to be all encompassing, except it doesn't include the shipping costs if you're going to ship it to somebody.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay, so price cap, sub C. So again, the one and the two, that's as it was in the House. And I'm gonna pause, I said I was gonna pause to comment on a few things. The price cap in subdivision 1 applies to a ticket reseller. And as I mentioned, they've changed that definition, so it doesn't include individuals for personal use. However, the subdivision 2 applies to a secondary ticket exchange and doesn't talk about whether it's the reseller or not. It says the secondary ticket exchange shall not authorize for resale a ticket price at greater than 110%. So what that means is, in reality, in practice on the ground, the individual who's reselling the ticket for personal use, if they're selling it to someone, they're not price capped. But if they list the ticket on the secondary ticket exchange, the exchange can't allow them, or shouldn't, based on the statutory language, the exchange wouldn't allow them to sell it at greater than 110%. So they essentially become price capped if they sell it to a secondary ticket exchange. But if they're selling it on Front Porch Forum or face-to-face, et cetera, then they wouldn't be price capped at that. Okay, the other change is adding in this subdivision 3, which further limits the application of the price caps. And it says this subsection shall apply to the resale of tickets where the event is held at an independent venue and where the seating capacity of the venue is 3,000 individuals or fewer. The event is to be held at a nonprofit venue that hosts agricultural fairs, exhibitions, multi-day community events, in addition to live performances, or the venue is primarily used for collegiate or amateur sports. So the definition and then the application, the definition of independent venue, and then the addition of this application to say it only applies to these types of independent venues. My understanding is that captures all of the venues currently in the state.
So the fairgrounds is covered, they have for the summer.
It would be under the sub B.
It's all.
Yeah, it's an or. Yep.
So this is if we ever build an event space that holds more than 3,000, what is the purpose?
I'm going to allow others to describe to you
You're right, I can't ask.
what the justification for adding this in is for.
Can you go back to the price cap?
Yes, sir.
Section and parse out why that it doesn't apply to, what'd you say, Front Porch Forum, say?
Because unless the Attorney General makes an argument that Front Porch Forum is a secondary ticket exchange, which I think could be difficult. Secondary ticket exchange is defined as an electronic marketplace enabling the sale, purchase, and resale of tickets. But, you know, I think it would be a stretch to argue that Front Porch Forum is, you know, created and designed for that purpose.
I'm thinking of the resale.
Right. And so my comment was just if reseller excludes the individual, and so you purchase tickets for your personal use, now you want to resell them, but you don't meet the definition of a reseller. So as long as you're not.
Individual.
Yes, sir,
As
exactly.
long as it's clear that you're not engaged in business.
Right. And so as long as you're not selling them on a secondary ticket exchange, you're not gonna, the price cap is not gonna apply to you.
And as long as you're not engaging in business.
Correct. And, you know, if you have concerns about that, I would defer them to the AG's office. They're the ones who would have to make the assessment if they're deciding to go after an individual for some sort of unfair act in commerce. As you all know, I mean, it does come with a private right of action, so somebody could, you know, try to recoup any damages themselves, but it's most likely to be in a, you know, complaint-driven enforcement by the AG's office. They would have to make that determination in those cases of whether the individual is engaging in a business entity or whether they bought it for personal use. And I think, it's just gonna be fact specific, right? Have you been advertising, tickets that you purchased for 10 different venues this year, in the same locations, I mean, that's probably gonna lean you to an indication that you're probably not doing this for personal use, but, so.
That'll be, yeah. That'll be a determination made by the attorney general. Probably, I would assume, do some rulemaking on that.
Okay, so the rest of this remains the same. So you still have the carve out here in sub 4 when there is a written contract for the resale. I did clean that up a little bit. I don't know if you, I think we talked about it a little bit. It wasn't phrased the best way when you're talking about the contract and who is contracting with the ticket issuer. So I fixed this slightly, but the subsection doesn't apply to the resale of a ticket under the written contract with the ticket issuer. Subsection D is the ban on the deceptive URLs and the improper use of intellectual property. That has not changed. That remains the same. When you get to the speculative ticket sales, which is in subsection E, we changed this to person. It was initially a reseller shall not sell or offer for sale speculative tickets. But because you've changed the definition of reseller and you've excluded individuals, we changed this, I shouldn't say we, the committee changed this to be person because they want to make sure, even as an individual who may be selling tickets and you may not meet the definition of reseller, you shouldn't be allowed to sell speculative tickets. So they did make that change to ensure that that subsection applies to everybody. And then lastly, there is a sunset that was added in. That's this section 2, repeals the entire subchapter July 1 of 2028. And those are the changes.
What more questions for Cameron? Emily?
Just to clarify, on subsection E, that got changed to person just to capture businesses as well as individuals.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
From Alabama. Okay.
That's all.
Any questions? Thank you, Cameron.
Yes.
On our webpage, we do have a letter from Susan. It's mislabeled, it's under S71, but it's actually page 512.
I didn't read it for that reason.
That's fixed now.
It's fixed now, okay, so if you refresh, you'll have it. Other questions? We have people around the room, if there's questions you want to ask, they're here. If not, what's your pleasure? Motion to concur?
I move that we concur.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made by Vice Chair, seconded by Representative Duke.
I have a question. Before we take one.
Struggle.
I'm just curious as to the Arts Council, their.
That's the letter.
That's the letter.
The letter.
Oh. I gotta read it. Okay, that's fine. I think I get it. It's okay.
I mean, I can just read you, this is from Susan Evans McClure.
Okay.
She's representing Vermont Arts Council, Vermont Creative Network. Is writing this morning on behalf of the Vermont Arts Council, Vermont Creative Network, including our coalition of live event venues that have been working to advance this bill. To share our support for the Senate version of H 512, which passed the Senate earlier this week. Overall, this is a strong bill that will protect Vermont venues and consumers.
Thank you.
There's more to the letter, but I
That's
think
fine.
that's pretty much sums up.
Yep.
Their support for 512 is passed by the Senate.
We didn't talk about the repeal. Did we?
No, we didn't.
Oh, we did. That the bill is repealed July 1st, 20, or sunset.
It's a sunset, so,
Sorry, sunset.
yeah, so I think what it does is brings the committee back to take a look at the data that's coming out of it, and is this working? And if it is, then we either extend the sunset like we've done many times on veggie, or we make a determination that this is working well and that Vermont consumers and venues are protected, and we want to keep it going, and we just remove the sunset.
So it stays in effect in perpetuity, unless we change it another time.
Well, if you remove, but right now it's sunset, so it goes.
Oh, okay.
So this means 2028, it goes away unless
But if
we
we
do
do,
something.
right, but if we pass the bill the way it is.
That's the way it is right now.
Right
That's,
now,
that's
from the
what's in here.
Senate.
This is from the Senate.
There's a sunset. in
So
2
there's a
years.
sunset. So it sunsets in 2 years. Which means you'll have to revisit it again. And I'm sure Susan will be here, letting us know whether or not.
Bring the chair back as a witness.
Yeah,
I know that I would have the information that you'd be looking for.
another way to do it would be to require a report from the AG or from the Arts Council or something else to, but that is a less definitive way to take a look at it. This is a,
So this really forces the issue. And so if it's working well, then I'm sure that the Creative Network will be back here saying, don't repeal this, it's working. Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor of concurring with the Senate proposal of amendment, raise your hand. All opposed? Okay, it's 11-0. So Emily, this will be up for action Tuesday. You'll need to explain changes that were made, then get the, let's say, that our recommendation is to concur with the Senate proposal of amendment. Great. Okay. One down and many to go. So thank you. Committee will be back at 1 o'clock after lunch. We'll be looking at new draft of S-71, and we will also look at H 639, which passed the Senate yesterday, which is the
Private data.
private data, genetic
Genetic
data
privacy.
privacy. So there's an amendment there. We'll have to make a decision here also whether or not we concur, send it back with further proposal of amendment, or we ask for a committee conference on that.
Is that the current Senate Journal?
Yeah, what they've done is added 68 here.
Here, that's all.
Okay, any questions? Be back at 12. Susan, thank you very much. Matt, Claire, thank you as well. Appreciate everyone's work on this bill. I think it'll do, we hope it does help the venues and help